Hello, thank you for watching this presentation, Divided We Fall. My name is Michael Moore. I am the Chief Information Security Officer for the Arizona Secretary of State's Office, and until recently, I was the Information Security Officer for the Maricopa County Recorder's Office. This presentation's goal is to provide context of threats to election workers, an understanding of the danger this presents to democracy, and insight to our response and information on how you can help. Before we get into threats, I want to provide some context for the landscape I directly support. Arizona has approximately 4.2 million voters. No party affiliation makes up the largest percentage of voters at approximately 1.45 million, Republicans at 1.44 million, and Democrats at 1.26 million. The new No Labels Party is now up to 8.5 thousand. Looking at the outcomes from recent elections, Arizona has become a purple state. Maricopa County is very large. Comprising 60% of Arizona's population, it has a larger population than 24 states. To put this in a statewide perspective, Maricopa County has more employees than the smallest county in Arizona has citizens. This means that Maricopa County has resources that most Arizona counties do not have, including funding for security controls, training, and certification, as well as specialized IT and information security staff. To my knowledge, no other county's elections department has a dedicated information security officer. Due to changes in demographics and political shifts, statewide electoral contests have been decided by razor-thin margins in recent years. For example, our recent race for Attorney General was decided by 280 votes out of over 2.5 million votes cast. Close races mean it takes longer to make a clear determination on who the winners are and which has been used in mis, dis, or malinformation, also known as MDM, and has fueled threats. While Maricopa is a huge target, it's also in a position to have the resources to respond. In this presentation, I'm going to give specific examples of threats to election workers. I want to warn you, these are explicit threats that graphically describe violent acts and are frequently vulgar. Then I'm going to go into how the Arizona Secretary of State's Office is responding to these threats by performing threat hunting, systematic threat reporting, threat intelligence sharing with the election community, social media lockdown training for election officials, and voter education. Every mechanism that can be used to convey threats is being used. Phone calls, voicemail, emails, forum posts on our website, social media, comment sections from media posts, and letters. These are common trends. For example, people frequently sign their threats with their full name and address. People sending threats are frequently not local to our region. Threats are often encoded in mob boss style speech. People encourage others to engage in violent acts, and any attempt to diffuse the rhetoric is met with hostility. People often engage in multiple abusive harassing events before they work themselves up to full-on threats. Lastly, election officials are being targeted on their personal phones, social media accounts, and homes. This first threat is the only one in this presentation that is not specific to Arizona. Caitlin Jones, a 25-year-old woman from New Hampshire, sent a series of text messages to a Michigan election official's personal cell phone containing threats to injure the official and the official's minor child. Jones made posts to an Instagram account associated with the official that also contained threats to injure the official and the official's minor child. For example, Jones posted on the official's Instagram account that the official's minor child was beautiful and that it would be a shame if something happened to her. Jones' text message to the official included graphic photographs of a bloody, deceased, nude, mutilated woman lying on the ground, as well as a photograph of the official's minor child. Quote, "Fucking with our elections is terrorism, and us Americans clearly don't tolerate terrorists, so yes, you should be afraid. Your daughter should be afraid, and so should your husband." She will receive a sentence of up to 10 years in prison. Here is a particularly disturbing voicemail threat against the incoming Arizona Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes.
Fontes, I'd be more interested, Adrian, in your background and maybe some of those little dirty deals that we have on you, Adrian. What do you think? We haven't been watching you? We've been watching you for a long time, and we can prove it. Go ahead. I can't wait till the first day of the month. You're all going to go down, including you, Adrian, with the 3 kids.
How is Adrian Fontes, a former lawyer for Mexican drug cartels, a fucking Secretary of State? You traitorous motherfucker. You should be shot in the head for being a traitor. Fuck you.
While the office regularly receives threats, this example generated the most concern because it specifically involved members of the Secretary's family. Unfortunately, in this heightened threat environment, nothing and no one is off limits. Walter Lee Hoenstra was a technology director at a Missouri public school. The following is a voicemail left for the Maricopa County recorder, Stephen Richer, on his personal phone.
So I see you're for fair and competent elections, as that's what it says here on your homepage for your recorder position you're trying to fly here. But you call things unhinged and insane lies when there's a forensic audit going on. You need to check yourself. You need to do your fucking job right, because other people from other states are watching your ass. You fucking renege on this deal or give them any more troubles, your ass will never make it to your next little board meeting.
What brings a Missouri public school IT director to call and threaten a county recorder in Arizona? He could see a prison sentence of up to 7 years. This is Francis Frederick Goltz, aka Free Speech Master. Here are some posts from him. Hypothetically, a mass shooting of poll workers and election officials in the highly suspect precincts might be the way to go. It would be shame if someone got to his children. There are some crazies out there. This kind of info shouldn't be readily available on the internet. The Gateway Pundit frequently posts articles accusing Arizona election officials of malfeasance, and their lax comment moderation standards means that this website is a continuous source of threats targeting election officials. Here is another comment from Free Speech Master in October of last year.
We need to get this fucker any way we can.
And here is another exchange between Free Speech Master and another individual, Pelosi Stock.
He's got a wife that is a lawyer, too. We need to find out her name and where she works. I don't think he has kids, but I'm not 100% on that.
Kids are off limits.
No, nothing is off limits. It's people like you that are supposedly with us, who don't have the stomach to do whatever it takes to get our country back. That's why we lose. They've come after our kids every way possible, and you have some aversion to targeting theirs. Thanks for letting me know what foxhole I don't want you in.
Okay? Join me in Maricopa ASAP. Let's go.
Several things are going on here. This user is attempting to dox Recorder Richer's wife and makes a call for violent action against her, while speculating on whether they have kids who also should be targeted. The second person says that targeting children is over the line. However, Free Speech Master disagrees. Again, any attempt to cool things off is met with aggression. Last, it's interesting to note that Pelosi Stock is still calling for killing people. However, the killing of children is the moral line that they draw. Goltz also confessed to writing, "The children are the most important ones to get because it sends a message 100 years into the future that people will pay the price for the sins of the father. Dead children burn into the memories of people. Dead adults are forgotten much easier." In the plea deal, Goltz admitted he sent the threats on the internet from his home. They were meant to be true threats and understood as true threats. The following is an exchange we found during threat hunting on a social media platform. This is an interaction of multiple people making threats.
Treason, please hang them on live TV so all can see.
Traitors all need to pay a traitor's price, and if guilty, which I think these commies are, I want to see 'em dangle from a rope till their feet quit wiggling.
Unless people dangle from the rope, justice is not served.
Hang 'em all. This has got to stop. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yes. A plan that includes kicking down some doors and cracking some skulls like the rotten eggshells they are.
Corrupt elections equals treason.
I think burning them at the stake is more appropriate.
This GIF was posted as the body of one of the messages in this thread. Here is another exchange, this time on patriots.win.
Why are you so negative? Nothing has changed except now they're exposed. They will lose. There's way more of us than them. We have several options, and each option should be explored. If none works, then we have the final solution. This is just the beginning. A couple of bullies asking what the cocksucker Elias is scaring people to inaction. Fuck these assholes.
From here on out, Steven deserves to eat phlegm in his restaurant food.
He deserves a lot more than that. He has a lead deficiency that needs to be remedied.
No jury box. No voting box. Where's the ammo box, you fucking pussies? Don't you realize you'll have a lot more to lose when the country is actually gone and you can't do shit about it? Fucking morons.
Won't do it alone, brother. People gotta suffer before anyone gets used to the idea that we have to shoot our way out of this at some point. The military, Spec Ops have the training and resources. Especially ex-members. They are the ones who should be doing it first. Period.
Needs to be arrested for treason and executed.
This faggot will hang.
Again, you see encoded speech. You see a call for others to do violence, and specifically calls for veterans to take matters into their own hands. Veterans and people with mental health issues are frequent victims of being targeted in these calls to violent action. A former employee was named at an election conspiracy theory event. She oversaw signature verification. Conspiracy theorists claim that the signature verification process was compromised. The line of reasoning is, then she must be complicit, paid off, or forced to disappear.
Where is name of former employee? Former election director of Maricopa County. Former FBI agent. Could she be at home?
Is this for real? If so, this is the moment we have been waiting for. Once these scumbags start fleeing, we know for sure the good guys are kicking butt.
Bang, bang.
After this threat, she notified us that her security cameras caught people banging on her door at 3 in the morning. It's easy to look up where someone lives on our assessor's website, especially if someone has a unique name. Online threats translate to kinetic events. In 2022, at the Maricopa County Recorder's Office, we processed 386 threat events. That figure is up from 33 in 2021 and 6 in 2020. That same year, the Arizona Secretary of State's office processed 66 threat events. However, the office only began tracking this data in November of 2022. In part, these numbers are higher because we developed a repeatable and consistent process for the hunting and reporting of threats. The cost, in terms of morale and manpower among our election officials due to the increase in intimidation and threats, is immense. Since 2020, Arizona has lost top election officials in 13 out of 15 Arizona counties due to early retirement and other forms of attrition. Elections are run by people. Think about the years, in some cases decades, of expertise we're losing. We've had people standing outside our election facility, filming people going in and out, taking pictures of license plates. What happens when they follow people home and harass them there? We have to protect our elected officials, our staff, and our poll workers, and we must make sure that they feel safe enough to do their jobs. 2022 saw a surge in armed Dropbox watchers. What happens when citizens feel it's unsafe to return their ballot? Democracy cannot exist without elections. Attacking elections is attacking democracy. I'm not saying to blindly trust elections, but just because you don't like the outcome of an election, don't blindly believe that it was stolen without evidence to back up your claims. There have been instances where election officials gave inappropriate access to equipment, a situation that is likely to be repeated in the future. Be watchful, be vigilant, and demand evidence. We've seen a direct correlation between comments made on social media, traditional media, and by prominent individuals to threats targeting election workers as well as law enforcement and judges. When people make threats, we must take them seriously. When these threats are spoken publicly, we need to listen to them and report to law enforcement. In Arizona, we're performing threat hunting inside of our organizations and sharing with the elections community. We have third-party partners as well as law enforcement that perform threat hunting. It's important to note, the point of threat hunting is to provide leadership with intelligence. Leadership needs to be made aware so they can decide how and if they want to respond. Do we debunk or pre-bunk or respond to MDM? Do we need to ask for additional physical security? Due to the sheer volume of threats we were processing at Maricopa County, we realized we needed to have a more formalized and codified process. This is now being modified for use at the Arizona Secretary of State's office and shared with the rest of the counties in Arizona. We've defined threat language, a message that is vulgar, crude, explicit, and/or disproving on its own right isn't a threat. A threat is a statement of an intention to inflict pain, injury, damage, or other hostile action on someone in retribution for something they've done or not done. A threat can be direct. I have a gun and I'm going to shoot you. A threat can be indirect. Someone should shoot you. A threat can be encoded by using slang, popular culture references, or word games. It's important that when encoded threats are being reported, you must decode it for the authority you're reporting to. We need to make it as easy as possible for them to understand what is being said. Threats are now treated like an IT ticket. We have developed an internal email address which automatically creates a ticket for staff to report threats. This is essential to ensure everything is tracked and reported so we have a history we can refer back to. We inform our staff and leadership team of any threats we are made aware of. If someone is targeted by a threat, we make sure to let them know and make sure they understand the magnitude of the threat. If someone is only named and accused of malfeasance, we make sure that they understand that there is not yet an implication of violence. If there is any call to physical violence, we make sure to let them know and highlight that to law enforcement. We report all threats to our state's fusion center, the ACTIC, also known as the Arizona Counterterrorism Information Center, the FBI, our internal security team, as well as any affected agencies or individuals. If we see a threat, regardless of the target, they need to be notified for their situational awareness. We don't report things that are only abusive or harassing. Those things are tracked internally and monitored for escalation to threat. Law enforcement can't do anything about citizens engaged in free speech. However, we've seen a trend where harassment escalates to threats, and it's important to be able to provide law enforcement with a full scope of interactions with an individual. Arizona engages in an information sharing and analysis center. If a threat is detected that affects another government entity, this is communicated immediately. Every month, Arizona has multiple statewide election security meetings, or SESMs, for leadership, IT and security staff, and communications teams. Each SESM caters information to the respective audience. Leadership is made aware of threats and available resources. Recently, we demonstrated social media lockdown training that will be covered in the next slide. IT gets in the weeds, drilling into technical problems, solutions, best practices, and information sharing on cyber threats. This year, we covered the Arizona Department of Homeland Security's Cyber Readiness Grant Program and the 5 free security solutions, including multi-factor authentication, advanced endpoint protection, web application firewall, security awareness training, and converged endpoint management. Federal DHS and CISA also frequently present solutions that they offer. Lastly, communications meetings provide an opportunity for the community to develop a unified strategy to interface with the media and combat misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, again known as MDM. All meetings end with a tabletop exercise. We've seen a direct connection between staff being mentioned in social media, traditional media, or alternative media, and even in legislative sessions with being doxxed and threatened. We used to be reactive to these events. Now we're being proactive. Social media lockdown training is assigned to staff. It's not mandatory. They can opt out if they want to. However, no one has so far. In these trainings, we focus on 3 things. First, privacy. Make sure you're only sharing information only with those you want to see your content, for example, family and friends. Security. Have a long, complex, and especially unique password, and also use a password manager, and use multi-factor authentication for all of your accounts. As for perception, for your posts, ask yourself, how would this look printed in the newspaper? Is this a viewpoint that I no longer agree with or want to express publicly? Is this overly personal and inappropriate for a wide audience? We also give people the opportunity to Google themselves. As you can imagine, just going through this process gets people to think more about security and other aspects of their life. MDM drives threats. Election security has become a communications issue. For elections to function, people need to believe in the system to participate. Voter confidence is paramount. Maricopa County has created a website to combat MDM, justthefacts.vote. This website gives detailed information debunking MDM, much of which has trended on social media. CISA also has a lot of really good resources I recommend checking out. Maricopa County does weekly outreach events. They've gone to colleges, local events, gun shows wherever the people are. They also put out newsletters to inform the public. The Maricopa Vote Twitter, or X, account is very active. Maricopa also has a YouTube channel that is frequently updated. Go to youtube.com and look for @Maricopa Vote. Top election officials speak at length about how various election processes work. Lastly, we have presentations like this one. I feel it's essential for me to speak to the DEF CON community. Hackers know when someone is wrong about information security, telling a lie, or incompetent. I'm not going to tell you that elections are unhackable. Anyone who says the security of something is perfect is either a fool or trying to sell you something. What I will say is that the principles of good security are baked into elections. Prevention, detection, and recovery, separation of duties, and the principles of least privilege, defense in depth. Like anything else, election security can be continuously improved. I'm trying to push forward election security and appreciate the opportunity to contribute to DEF CON Voting Village. Now let's get to the things that you can do to help. The number one thing you can do is don't send death threats to election officials. Seriously, there are better ways to meet an FBI agent. Make sure you vote. It's not my place to tell you how to vote, nor do I want to. But I will say, if a candidate you follow is spreading mis, dis, or malinformation, call them out on it. If they don't change course, perhaps they're not the right candidate for you. I don't think it's unreasonable that you demand they speak truth. Next, volunteer to be a poll worker, especially if you have questions about how elections are run in your area or you have concerns that they're not being run correctly. Be a part of the process. If you see something that seems wrong, speak up. If you see someone trying to compromise elections, report them. Acknowledge that you may not understand the process and give the proper chain of command the chance to respond to your concerns. If you don't think you're being taken seriously, roll them up to the elected official. If you still think they're not being taken seriously, go to law enforcement. And if you don't think law enforcement is taking you seriously, you can always reach out to the media. I don't recommend feeding information directly to groups that's only goal is to erode confidence in elections. Anyone you speak with should ask for evidence. Next, demand intellectual integrity of yourself and others. Everyone is susceptible to confirmation bias. We have our beliefs, and we tend to cherry-pick evidence to back up those beliefs. When you hear something bad about someone you like, you don't want to believe it. When you hear something good about someone you don't like, you don't want to believe it. We have close friends, family, and leaders that we trust that largely share our beliefs. It can be difficult to challenge those close to us, but if we don't, that's called groupthink. Also known when people share a feeling of solidarity and are highly concerned with maintaining the relationship within the group at all costs. That's what blew up the Challenger, because people were afraid to speak up. Lastly, ECRI, coined by astronomer Carl Sagan. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Be critical, especially the things that you want to be true. If you feel an extreme reaction to something that you read, hear, or see, ask for citations, sources, get the full context. Artificial intelligence and generative language models are exploding right now. The barrier of entry to use these tools has been greatly reduced. These tools are going to be used to create synthetic content, including deepfakes, to create more and more believable fake content. The ability to craft false narratives to fit any viewpoint you want and disseminate to a large audience is becoming trivial. Not just text, but audio as well as believable video. It's going to be incredibly challenging for the public to be able to know what's real and what isn't. Things are going to get a whole lot worse. You're hackers, you understand these things. It's up to you to explain to your friends, family, and community what this is. Don't let nefarious actors trick you or those that you care about into reacting exactly how they want you to. Show those around you high-quality deepfakes and explain to them. Don't let their first exposure to this be something that's specifically crafted to trick them. Show them how to do research. Show them how to Google for themselves. Let them know you're there for them if they need help investigating things. I'll leave you with this. Be very careful about trusting things just because it's what you want to hear. Thank you again for your time.